It's time for ROTD Weekend. If you're like me, your entire social media feed right now is full of what to do with Thanksgiving leftovers. And I think it's a totally valid topic, and I will be diving into it a bit with my guest today, who is Liz Marino from the Clean Eating Couple. But I also think that it's important to think a little bit about some self-care around the leftovers. You know, the lead up to these holidays can be intense. You are planning, cooking, and then cleaning and all of that. And then after, there's this pressure to make sure that you're not being wasteful, that you're using everything, that you're being that good mom who uses the turkey carcass to make the stock and all of that, which is totally great if you love it and you have the energy. But what if you don't? And I will tell you honestly that I go back and forth on this from one year to another. Every single year is different, and how I'm feeling after a big holiday dinner is not the same right now as it's going to be after Christmas this year or after Easter, not the same as it was last year. And so having this built-in expectation for myself, oh, last year I made this amazing thing with the leftover cranberry sauce. I'm going to do that again. And then I don't feel like it, right? Or whatever that is. So what I want to talk about is what you can do if you have a lot of leftovers in the house and you don't feel like doing anything with them. Now, we can't go back in time to Thursday a few days ago and send leftovers home with people, but that is most definitely an option. I will very often, just as soon as people start leaving, start saying, oh, take turkey. Oh, take turkey. Oh, take potatoes. Take pie. I love pumpkin pie. You know, I don't have a sweet tooth, but pumpkin pie I'm a sucker for. I will send it home with other people as well, because I know I'm not going to probably eat it after that 1 or 2 slices that I've had, you know? So definitely having a good supply of those foil containers, disposable containers of various kinds, and you can just start loading people up with the leftovers so that they can take them, and you know that you are now not responsible for making sure that those get eaten. I mean, you don't know if those people are going to eat it or not, but it's off of your plate, literally not your problem. Then in terms of what is left, I do usually like to have just a straight up leftovers dinner the next day. For Christmas, actually, my family had a very good tradition for Boxing Day, which is December 26th in a lot of the world, but not in the United States. You don't celebrate Boxing Day. So for Boxing Day, for my family, my mom would call it Fuzzy Day. And that meant that she was not changing out of her fuzzy pajamas, and that everybody would be fending for themselves for food. Eat when you want to, eat what you want to. Nobody is responsible for pulling everything out and heating it up or for making sandwiches for each other. It is a very, very nice tradition where the day after the big dinner, the cook and nobody is responsible for anybody else. So I do like to have some of the leftovers in the fridge for that. And some people are going to make a turkey sandwich. Some people are going to have, heated up mashed potatoes, gravy, all of that in the microwave. And maybe somebody else is just going to make themselves some scrambled eggs and toast. There's no requirements, fend for yourself day. So I do like to have some of the leftovers in the fridge. But then what do you do today? So Saturday after Thanksgiving. So you send home leftovers, maybe with people if you were doing that. If not, maybe you'll do it next time. And then you have some leftovers that you're just having microwaved, whatever. Now on today, the Saturday, this is kind of the decision day for me, right? Do I want to do something with this stuff? And now is the day that you can decide. You can take stock of what is in your fridge. Pun unintended. I don't mean you have to make stock, but you take stock of what is in your fridge. What have you got left? And what is your energy level like? What do you feel like doing? Do you have the energy to, get the turkey leftovers, carcass and everything into the freezer? That is a great thing to do for later. I literally push down on the carcass really good to make it smaller, and then I'll put it into Ziploc bags into the freezer. And then I can think about that in a couple weeks when I want to make some turkey stock. And the same goes with some of the other leftovers too, right? You can freeze what you're not going to use, keep what you are going to use. And then I think the self-care part of this that I really do feel strongly about as, a busy parent who is trying to feed us all healthily and trying to do all this stuff. And I don't want to be wasteful and I want to be sustainable and all of this stuff. But sometimes your own sanity has to take precedence over all of that, right? And so this is where I think, and what I do is around this day, Saturday, Sunday, a few days after Thanksgiving, if there's just a little bit of mashed potatoes in that container, if nobody is eating that gravy, if I don't think it's going to be good in the freezer and I am not in the mood to actually turn it into something, now is the time to get rid of it. And once it is gone, down the garbage disposal, in the garbage, once it is gone and your fridge is kind of cleaned out and you can see what you have, it feels really good. And feeling really good is really important right now, We have a really big month ahead. It is the gear up to that next big holiday, but also like my kids have exams. They have end of year concerts. There's just so much going on right now that having that like cleared out fridge, cleared out headspace, no requirements or like you must do this thing. None of that has to be there. And we can face the Monday after the holiday when the kids are going back to school. We're all going back to work and everything's going back to normal. We can face that with a bit of a fresher start without any guilt. So that is my advice. If you are feeling any pressure right now that you really have to go do something with those leftovers, you have my permission. Tell everybody, Christine said I don't have to, and you are just fine. Now, having said all of that, if you do want to do something with those leftovers right now, my guest today is Liz Marino from the Clean Eating Couple, and we're talking about a few different things, but we are also talking about some great uses for those leftovers, and Liz has brought a very delicious recipe for us that can optionally use up some of those as well. So see, you have options. You can not do anything with those leftovers, or you can. It is up to you. Either way, let's listen to my conversation with Liz Marino from the Clean Eating Couple. Liz Marino, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Christine. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited to be talking with you. So we're talking around the time when you have launched this 30-day challenge on yourself to show people on social media what you're actually making for dinner every night, like kids there and everything. Can you tell me what made you decide to do this?
Yeah, so my site is all about easy, healthy recipes, but one of the most common things that I hear from people is a million excuses of why eating healthy is so hard. And it can be hard if you make it hard. But my goal is to always show people that eating healthy doesn't have to be hard, and it also can taste really good. So I've had this idea of sharing what we actually make for a really long time, and I've just kind of put it off because it does feel a little daunting to film yourself cooking dinner every night. And the other day I just decided, all right, let's go for it. So it's been pretty well received. People seem to be enjoying it. And even though it's been a lot of work, it's been kind of fun to capture what it really looks like in our kitchen, what the food is that we really make, what are the recipes that we are making over and over again, and how are we really feeding our family nutritious, easy meals.
I love that. So I have several questions. First, is it different, like the thing that you're making on the daily, like, okay, dinner time, let's go cook? Is it different from what's actually on your website, the recipes that you've tested, like that kind of thing?
Some of the videos and things that we are making are just, I am pulling up my website and I'm making the recipe as is. I'm actually following it. Mm-hmm. Other things are just kind of random. Like I had some leftover rotisserie chicken and here's how I'm turning it into a soup. And they're more kind of off the cuff things. But I would say it's a mix of 50-50.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder if that's how, I think that I'm similar in that way with my cooking. Like if I'm making something Greek and I want a tzatziki sauce to go with it, I'm going to my website and looking at my recipe because I know it's perfect for me and I love it. And then other times I'm like, okay, I'm trying to think of a good example. Pico de gallo. I'm not looking at my website for that. I'm chopping up the veggies that I have and going with it.
Yeah. Like last night I didn't even really make it. I was just showing here's like a healthy meal that I make when I don't really have a lot of time. I have found these really delicious sous vide chicken. They're pre-cooked. So you just have to kind of bake them until the skin gets crispy. And the brand also makes a sous vide potato that again, same thing. You just dump it, put it in the oven and bake it. And I steam some green beans in a pan on the stove. And I just showed, hey, this is what what we're really having for dinner. I really like this brand. It's quick to prep and tastes really good. Whereas the night before that, I made the pasta primavera recipe that's on our site. And I showed from step one to the final dish of this is exactly how it is on my site and how you can make it too. So it's been kind of fun to show the more just random throw together things like that pico de gallo that you're talking about, just chopping and throwing things in a pot and showing how you can make something delicious.
Yeah, I like that. And I wonder to a certain extent if that's really how like everybody cooks. You have, they don't have their own blog, but they've got their go-to cookbook or index cards or recipe website that they go to for some recipes and other things they're just kind of throwing together, you know?
Yeah, I think some people, from my experience and just from what I know and talking to people, I think that there are for sure people that are recipe followers to a T, where it's like, this says a quarter teaspoon of pepper and that is all I'm going to put in it. And then there are other people that are like, nah, this kind of seems like it could be around a quarter teaspoon of pepper, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. Maybe I'll add some at the end. So I feel like there are some people that very strictly follow recipes, and there are some people that like to go rogue. Sometimes people go a little too rogue, as I'm sure you know from cooking, and they get a little too creative with things, and then they've made a whole different thing.
Yeah.
For better or for worse.
Read the comment section on the food blog. Love this recipe, except I did this and this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
Actually, when they say love this recipe and then tell me the changes, that's wonderful. When they're like, this didn't work, and then list all the things. You're just like,
you're just thinking, well, you actually made something completely different.
And they give it 1 star, and I'm like,
always the 1 star.
No. It wasn't my fault. So, okay. You mentioned steaming green beans. I know that one of your recent What I Made for Dinner Tonight had frozen vegetables in it, and all kinds of people are like, frozen vegetables, yay and nay, all over the place. What are your thoughts on frozen vegetables?
I love frozen vegetables, and I eat them every single day. And it baffles me that there are people out there that don't. I think that they are just so great. They are way, way, way cheaper than fresh vegetables and produce, which, I mean, I love buying fresh. I love buying local, but it's expensive. And especially as grocery store costs continue to go up, frozen vegetables are an amazing option. They don't go bad. I mean, eventually they will, but they can last in your freezer for a very long time. So they're great to stock up on things and always have them in your freezer. And then in terms of cooking, I mean, obviously you can get creative with them. Honestly, I just usually put them in the microwave and we just eat them plain. You can put a little butter on them or some seasoning, but they're super quick to prep. I mean, especially for my daughter, she's 1. I mean, we have frozen vegetables all the time. She loves frozen peas, frozen carrots, frozen green beans. I mean, they require absolutely no prep for me, and she's getting in veggies and everyone's happy.
I hear what you're saying totally. I think I did a lot more frozen vegetables when my kids were younger. Almost none now, though. And I need to maybe readjust my mind about it. I don't know if I started to get snobby about it. Part of it is my boyfriend and my kids all prefer like crunchy, uncooked vegetables almost completely. Cucumbers, tomatoes, avocado. My boyfriend likes raw green beans. Don't even get me started. But they are kind of more like salady cold thing people. And I love cooked vegetables. And then I don't get to have them. If I was having frozen ones, though, I could probably have them more often.
Yeah. I mean, I won't lie. My husband doesn't love frozen vegetables. They're certainly not his favorite. He's definitely more like your crew of people where it's like, we like crunchy tomato. He loves like a tomato cucumber salad or things like that. So sometimes he opts to make that for himself and he doesn't mind chopping it up. But for me, especially, like if I just need something super quick, I'm like, sorry, we're having frozen green beans tonight. I know it's not your favorite thing in the world, but that's what we're having. And while I'm not someone that likes to be a short order cook and everyone's having different things, I do feel like, I know for me, for my own health goals and what I want, I'm like, I don't care that they're frozen vegetables. I don't mind the taste or the texture of them. And for me, it's either I'm not going to have a vegetable or I'm going to have 2 cups of frozen green beans because I don't want to make the tomato cucumber salad or I don't have the time to. So they remove a lot of the barrier of, like we were talking about earlier, eating healthy feels hard. It feels complicated. For me, I'm like, there's no barrier here. Anyone can put this in a bowl and hit 2 minutes on the microwave and have it for lunch or dinner or whatever.
Did I see you either actually roast them or mentioned roasting them, or was that in the comment thread? Did you roast the frozen vegetables?
So I have done that in the past. Something that you can do is put them frozen on a parchment lined baking sheet and roast them just plain, nothing on them for like 20-ish minutes at about 400 degrees. And that will kind of get the moisture out of them. And then if you want to do some seasonings, you could toss them with olive oil and put a little like Italian seasoning on it. Or even I like a lot of like, there's tons of different brands that have salt-free, Southwestern or Mexican or all different kinds of flavor blends that you could toss on there with a little bit of olive oil and then put them back in the oven for another like 10 to 15 minutes. It doesn't necessarily crisp them up to make it like, oh, this is what a raw green bean that was cooked would taste like. But it does add a little oomph to them, and it can kind of help take out that wateryness to them that I think some people don't really like.
I love that. I haven't tried it. I am going to give it a try, and maybe air fryer as well, like frozen green beans or broccoli into the air fryer.
I won't lie. I am not an air fryer person. No, I have nothing against it. Besides that, I had one that was huge and took up way too much space on my counter. I think it's an amazing tool and people love it, but I don't really have any experience with cooking because I only had one for a very brief time and then I gave it away.
I don't know, Liz. We might not be able to be friends. I'm kidding. But I'm obsessed
I feel
with
like
my air
I'm
fryer.
missing out on it, but every time I went to use it, I'm like, this thing is so huge. It's taking up my whole counter space. And I have a big toaster oven, which I feel like almost is, it's not the same as an air fryer, but they're pretty close.
They're very
So there was nothing I could make in the air fryer that I couldn't do in my toaster oven and get back a huge portion of my counter.
Well, and I think now they make toaster oven air fryer, like their convection toaster oven. It is the same thing. It's just mine is smaller than a toaster oven, but like they just heat up fast. It's fine. Let's stop talking about air fryer. I have another whole line of questioning for you. So this episode is going live on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And I know that you have some great ideas for Thanksgiving leftovers, healthy new ideas. What have you got that people should be doing if they're staring at all that turkey in their fridge?
I have a lot of ideas for you. I am pretty much the queen of leftovers when it comes to Thanksgiving, and doing it in a way that doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, we're eating turkey again, because we all know what that's like on day 3 when you're like, I am going to grow feathers if I keep eating this turkey. So every year on Thanksgiving, this is what I do. Whether I cook the turkey or I'm at someone's house, I always wind up with the bones and scraps of the turkey. First thing you're going to want to do, I know you're tired after cooking Thanksgiving dinner. I totally get it. But just trust me, taking 10 minutes, taking all the bones, all the skin, and all the scraps off the turkey and separating the turkey and any edible meat is going to save you a ton of time. And rather than putting it in your fridge and letting it sit there for a couple days, just take those bones and put them right in your crock pot, fill it with water, and cook it on low for 15 to 20 hours. And you're going to have the best turkey stock that you've ever tasted. They make such rich, delicious broth. If you've never tried this, you're seriously missing out. It's so, so good.
Yeah,
so that's my first tip.
Do you? Sorry, I just started doing this and I'm now wondering if everybody already knew this and I'm just the only one. I've started reducing my homemade stocks. If I make it, then I put it on the stove so it becomes like a concentrate and takes up.
Smart.
Okay, so the last person I said this to was like, yeah, everybody does that. And I'm like, oh, I thought it was smart, but maybe not. But yeah, so reducing it way down and it's like,
almost like a bouillon.
Yeah. And then I can put it in smaller containers in the freezer and I don't have, because I used to not do the turkey stock because I didn't want, 6 cups of liquid in my freezer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I have another tip for that. I don't know if you use them, but have you heard of super cubes?
No.
This is not sponsored, obviously, but what a fantastic invention. I absolutely love them. They are these little rectangular molds. And they come in different sizes. So you can freeze some things in 1/2 cup, 1 cup, or 2 cup portions. I freeze my broth because I don't do this just with turkey. I do it with chicken. I do it with beef bones. I always make my own broth. I just think it's so much tastier and it's so much cheaper than buying it. But you can freeze in these little blocks. And then they lay flat in your freezer. So then you don't have to be like, oh, I have this giant container of turkey broth in my freezer that I don't know what to do with. So that's a good tip if you are planning on doing this for Thanksgiving, just for you or for anyone that's listening.
Yes, I will get that. Okay, so you make the stock, you use your slow cooker. I use my Instant Pot, but that's okay.
Yep. You could do either one. You could do it on a stove too. If you don't have a slow cooker or an Instant Pot, fill a pot with water, just let it simmer. I mean, you can even do, even just a few hours is enough. But the longer you cook, the richer it's going to be and the more depth of flavor that's going to have. So I do encourage you to cook it for
And
a
I
little
think
bit.
you are the health expert more than I am. When I do it in the Instant Pot for a very long time, the bones are like they can just
Yeah.
break apart. And that's because everything's been extracted from them, right?
So I'm not totally a health expert. I actually went to school for marketing, so I'm all self-taught on health things. So I can't make any health claims, but from my understanding is yes, the longer that the bones are cooked, the more nutrients are extracted from them. The collagen and the gelatin kind of gets pulled out from them. And then when you drink it, you're getting all those health benefits. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah, I love that. I make a broth and then the bones are like, they break into almost a powder.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, did it right.
Yes, exactly. So once you have that delicious stock, there's a million different things that you could do with it in terms of leftovers. So you could freeze it like we talked about and save it for another day if you just don't want to be bothered. Or you could take all that turkey, chop it up really nice and make, again, a million different things with it. I like to just make good old fashioned turkey soup, which is so simple. Saute onion, garlic, celery, carrots, put the cooked turkey in there, stir the broth in, some spices, let it simmer for a little bit, and you've got a really easy meal. You could do rice, you could do noodle, you could do small pasta. There's a lot of different variations that you could do with it. I've made a turkey pot pie soup before. We have that on our site. That's kind of creamy. That's really good. I know people make casseroles with it or pasta with it. That's not my favorite way to use turkey. I feel like it kind of can get a little bit of a funky texture. So I prefer to use it in a soup because it does tend to be a little drier the next day. When you put it in a soup, it kind of rehydrates. And another thing that I really like to do with it is to make chili. So any recipe that you would use like a cooked chicken in or like a rotisserie chicken in, you could sub in turkey. So make it just like I normally would make chili, onion, garlic, some crushed tomatoes, beans, chili spices. And I prefer to slow cook it, but again, you could do it on the stove, you could do it in your Instant Pot, and that's another really great option. And if you're still like, I'm so sick of turkey, which we get that feeling in our house, I normally freeze this too. So we'll have turkey soup normally the next day and maybe the day after that. But on day 3, we're kind of like, okay, we're turkeyed out. So I usually just portion it out right then and there. I put it in those little super cubes that I mentioned and I freeze it. And then in a month from now, when there's a night when I don't want to cook dinner, we pull out the turkey chili and it's suddenly delicious because we haven't been eating it for the past 3 days.
Yeah.
So don't let that turkey go to waste. There's a lot that you can do with it and use your freezer and use up those bones so that you can really make the most of it because they're expensive too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I love that, Liz. Those are great ideas. And I know everybody is probably less daunted by the amount of turkey in their fridge now. Do you have a surprise recipe for me today?
I do.
What is it?
It is a broccoli cheddar orzo with chicken.
Oh, I love that idea. That sounds delicious. I love broccoli and cheddar together. I love orzo. It sounds like it's going to be like one pot of delicious.
It is. It is a one-pot meal. It is cheesy. It's a little bit creamy because we use a little bit of milk in there. It is just total comfort food. If you love broccoli cheddar soup, you'll love this too. It has all those flavors, but it's higher in protein because it has the chicken, got all those veggies in there, and it's just really, really yummy. We've been making it on repeat in our house.
Yum. Is this one of the
So this actually is a recipe that was in my series. I've been testing it for the site, and last week I did the final test of it, and I was like, you know what? This is what we're having for dinner, so I'm just going to share it.
Yay.
And it's been super popular with everyone that has made it. It's the most popular recipe that I've shared from this series. So
is this the one that went
loving it
viral on TikTok?
It did. Yeah. It went viral on TikTok. At this recording, it's got almost 500,000 views.
Nice.
And it continues to climb. So that's kind of cool.
Love that. That's so great. Congratulations. The whole series is so exciting, and that it's successful. That makes me so happy for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay. So where do you start? Broccoli, cheddar, orzo with chicken. Where do you start with this?
So you're going to start by taking some boneless, skinless chicken breasts, or you could use thighs, and you're going to cube them up into little pieces. If you want to save time, a little hack is that you could use rotisserie chicken here too, and it would be equally delicious. But we like to use chicken breasts because they're lean and high in protein. And you're going to cube them up and sear them in a pan with some olive oil just until they're browned on the outside. They don't have to be completely cooked because they're going to continue to cook as we make this. And then you're going to stir in some garlic and onion and saute that until it's nice and translucent. We want to make sure they're fragrant and soft and everything smells good. And then you're going to stir in some broccoli spears. And I used grated carrots really to kind of give it that orangey look that broccoli cheddar soup normally has. But also to add in extra veggies. I'm all about sneaking in more veggies whenever we can. So I grated them just on a box grater, but you totally could buy those pre-shredded carrots if you don't feel like doing that.
You said broccoli spears, like florets or
little florets.
little
Yeah.
florets? Fresh.
I bought just a bag of, I did fresh. I think that frozen here, after I just talked about how great frozen veggies are, I think that it would just be a little too mushy. But you probably could, if you have frozen broccoli, instead of adding it now, you could add it more towards the end and stir it in. And it probably would be fine. They just might be a little mushy.
So you bought the like bag of broccoli florets from the produce department.
And then once you've got those in, you're going to add a bunch of spices. We have some garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, dried parsley. I did a little bit of red pepper flakes, which are optional, but I think they add a nice little kick to it. And then dried thyme and a bay leaf. So really kind of savory, delicious flavors in there. And then I stirred in orzo and chicken broth. And then you're going to stir it all together, cover it, and just let it simmer. And the orzo is going to cook right in there with all of the veggies and the broth. And it's going to kind of all meld together. And once the orzo is cooked, you stir in a little bit of milk, some grated cheddar cheese, and some grated Parmesan cheese. And it gets super cheesy and creamy and delicious.
So is the broth or stock mostly absorbed by the orzo? Like, is this like a solid thing or is it more of a soup? Okay,
it has like the texture. It's a little bit looser than if you were to just boil pasta and drain it, because you add the milk in, which kind of reconstitutes it. But it's more solid than it is.
It's reminding me of, what is that Italian dish with the little star pastas? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like a pastina?
Yeah, that's kind of like that kind of texture. Yeah. Love it. That sounds amazing.
It is really, really good. Like I said, I've been making it on repeat. It's cozy. It's like a good fall meal. And I love anything that can be made in one pot because easy cleanup is the best.
I love that too. I will, just so people know, I'll put the link to the recipe in the show notes so they can get the ingredient amounts and everything, or they can go to cleaneatingcouple.com and search for orzo. Probably will get them there.
Yeah, orzo will get them there. Or even if you just Google clean eating couple broccoli orzo, you'll find it.
Yeah, I love Google's so great, right? Well, Liz, this has been so great. I'm so excited for you in this series. It's so good. Can you let people know where they can find you online if they want to watch this, see more? Where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, sure. You can find me at thecleaneatingcouple.com or follow us on Instagram, The Clean Eating Couple. You have to put the in there. Or you can email me, liz@thecleaneatingcouple.com. I'm always happy to chat. If you have questions about eating healthy or need help, I'm always available.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you so much for having me, Christine.
Broccoli and cheese is always a winner, in my opinion. I love the idea of that dish. Thank you so much, Liz, for your great tips for the leftovers and for the frozen veggies and for that delicious recipe. Go and make sure you are following Liz, the Clean Eating Couple, on Instagram for sure, so you can see these real dinners that she's doing. It's so inspiring. I love it. As to what is cooking in my house, I have one final holiday season recipe testing round to do. It is just a slow cooker pork butt roast. I have, all these pork roast recipes on Cook the Story that do really well. People really, really love them. They're very detailed and you will definitely get a delicious roast pork if you follow them. But I do get questions quite often about whether it can be done in a slow cooker. And so we are doing that as a whole separate recipe. And that is kind of rounding out my Christmas recipe prepping. And so when it comes to the recipe development, photography, video work that I am doing right now, it is kind of shifting towards game day foods and looking towards the Super Bowl. I know it's crazy. I talk about this all the time. My kids live in this strange world where we're eating Thanksgiving dinner at back to school, and then we're having funny little Santa hat things in July. That happened years ago. It was very funny. But yeah, I am looking ahead to what you are going to be needing in the next phase after we get through this holiday season. So like I said, I'm doing that slow cooker pork butt roast, but I'm also turning towards like some dips and different things. I am working on a shrimp dip recipe that I want to pair with a like fried or oven fried shrimp. And the idea behind this dipping sauce is I want it to be kind of like horseradishy, like a cocktail sauce, but still like creamy and rich. So it's like a little bit of a hybrid between your cocktail sauce and like a creamier mayonnaise based sauce. So I've been playing with that and I think I have the recipe done. So if it is as good as I think it's going to be in the next test, then I will be photographing it and videoing that this week as well. And we're doing some air fryer shishito peppers. I am obsessed with shishito peppers right now. They get blistered and they have so much great flavor. And that like funny thing about them is that most of them are not spicy, but every now and then you get one. So it's almost like a game you can play. Who got the spicy one? Really, really fun. So I am working on those both as like a thing that you can dip into. Oh, possibly even that shrimp dip. It would be good, but you can dip into something and just have like an appetizer, or they're really wonderful served alongside steak or chicken. It's just this like easy little thing you can stick in the air fryer and they are amazing. So that is what I am working on this week. As to what is going live on the websites this week, that beef tenderloin recipe is going up. It is so, so good. It's a beef tenderloin that is first dry brined and then it is slow cooked in the oven at a low temperature. And then you take it out, rest it, and then it's reverse seared. So it darkens on the outside. And I actually have figured out how to do a gravy with this. It involves rubbing butter all over it as it's cooking, and then you get some really nice drippings. Often beef tenderloin is too lean to really get good drippings to make gravy, but for this one, you can do it. So it's a wonderful beef tenderloin recipe with gravy that is perfect for a holiday dinner. And then on the cookful, I'm doing something that really doesn't have anything to do with the holidays. It is air fryer roasted red peppers. But the reason that I ended up doing them was because remember I've told you about that Christmas salmon recipe that I have that uses the jarred roasted red peppers. And as I was like chopping that up to put on the salmon, I was like, I wonder if I could roast red peppers in the air fryer. Well, if I wonder something, then I have to try something. And the answer is yes, you totally can. They turn out amazing, just like roasted red peppers that you buy at the store. Except they're better than that because they're not like preserved in liquid. You use them right away and they're just full of flavor, delicious. So that recipe is going up on the Cookful this week. And it will not come as a surprise to you that I am telling you how to make those air fryer roast peppers this week on this podcast, as well as ushering in the month of December with some delicious hot chocolate. We are also doing a fun brunch board. And if you have cranberry sauce left in your fridge, do not throw that one out because I have some great simple uses for that. You know what? I'll tell you right now though, if you were thinking about getting rid of it, my mom just uses it as jam on her toast, leftover cranberry sauce with peanut butter, the cranberry sauce on toast, delicious. So do not get rid of it. It works just like jam. It's wonderful. But I'm going to be telling you a whole bunch of other things you can do with that cranberry sauce this week as well. So make sure you are subscribed to this podcast. There is a new recipe every single day, 7 days a week. And I know you want all of these ideas, help you decide what to make, what you should be thinking about as we head towards the holidays. So if you haven't subscribed already, you want to use your phone and go to whatever podcast app you like best. And then once you're there, search for Recipe of the Day. You will find me there. Or you can go to cookthestory.com/ROTD. That's kind of like the landing page for this podcast. And across the top of there, you will see some options to subscribe. You just tap on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and it'll take you right to the show and you can subscribe there. You do not want to miss all the great ideas I have for you coming your way. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget, take good care of yourself, relax a little bit, ease that pressure. Thank you to Liz Marino from The Clean Eating Couple for the wonderful recipe and conversation. Don't forget to follow her at The Clean Eating Couple. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great weekend. Let's get cooking.